Uh, Hello, everyone. Uh, I'm glad to have the opportunity to share this presentation with you today. Um, so the title of my presentation is Circular Economy Goal or Tool for Waste Management. And I'm coming from the Department of Environmental Engineering of Faculty of Technical Sciences, University of Novi Sad. And I'm the head of Department of Environmental Engineering. And the department has an overall experience in waste management more than 20 years. Today we have a big, let's say, movement in the field of circular economy. It basically became circular economy basically became the mainstream in the development of entire waste management sector and environmental sector as well. I would say that this call refers equally for developing transition as well as developed countries. So basically, from the practical point of view, it means that whatever we do in the field of waste management, whatever we do in sustainability field or environmental engineering field, it must be strongly related with circular economy. And although it's a new name or new phrase which is present in today's engineering and scientific research and scientific community, the concept of circular economy is quite old. In 19th century, August Wilhelm von Hofmann, who was the first president of the Royal Society of Chemistry, actually was a pioneer of circular economy. And he stated that in an ideal chemical factory, there is, strictly speaking, no waste but only products. The better a real factory makes use of its waste, the closer it gets to its deal, the bigger the profit. So today, circular economy recognized as a cornerstone of sustainable development. But if we look at von Hofmann's definition of circular economy, we are far, far away from the ideal concept and application and the project development in the field of circular economy. Why is that happening? Well, it's actually very interesting to notice that if we talk about the Hofmann's ideal, we needed to manage and to optimize the small chemical laboratory or small experiments to try to get the optimum from these reactions. And today, when we want to apply this on a bigger anthropogenic systems to our urban metabolism, we need to optimize actually the entire anthropogenic metabolism, which is a little bit more complicated than to optimize reactions in the chemical laboratory. On this photo, we see a big excavator, and this excavator every day exploits 240,000 tons of materials from the earth crust. So each day, only one device like this exploits 240,000 tons of different materials from the earth crust. The size of this machinery, or the weight of this machinery, is 18,000 tons. And this is only one machinery. If we compare this, for example, this amount of materials exploited from the earth crust with the waste which is generated, for example, in my city, Novi Sad, we can say that Novi Sad, municipality of Novi Sad, generates 2 times, for 2 years, generates the amount of 240,000 tons of materials. So that means that this one device, one machine, extract from the earth crust for 1 day the amount of materials or the amount of waste which Novi Sad generates for 2 years. When we talk about circular economy, we are talking about improved resource use by minimizing the extraction of natural resources, maximizing waste prevention, and optimizing the environmental, social, material, and economic values through the life cycle of material, components, and products. This is fine. I mean, this is nice goal. Definitely is a nice goal. But the question is, how can we optimize waste management systems if we are still exploiting this amount of materials from the earth crust, which are then used for production? We must highlight that in these materials which are extracted from the earth crust, we don't have only goods. Inside of these materials extracted from the earth crust, we have also a lot of different substances. Some of them are useful and some of them are hazardous. So, to get back to the circular economy, in an ideal circular economy would mean that all wastes or the overall amount of waste which is generated from these 2,400 tons of material extracted by this one device need to be fully and completely reused in a circular economy concept. And the big question is this possible? So the concepts of circular economy should tackle these big and very important issues of the massive extraction, consumption, and then at the end of the life cycle management of these byproducts or waste materials. If we look at overall anthropogenic metabolism, we can see that different waste flows, different waste and material flows in our societies. So all of those materials which are extracted from the earth crust are extracted for the reason to either build the anthroposphere or to be consumed in the anthroposphere. Once they are consumed, they are either integrated into the stock of the anthroposphere, of the infrastructure, or they are getting out after a certain period of time out of the anthroposphere. Circular economy means that we need to recycle our outputs and use them back again instead of original resources. Is this really possible? I mean, in all of those outputs, we have a lot of different substances. Is it really environmental friendly and sustainable to reuse again and again the hazardous substances as well? Is this in the line with the goals of waste management or not? Why substances should be highlighted? Well, of course, all goods are contained from different substances or combination of different substances, and sooner or later, these substances are going together with waste materials and in waste management systems. But let's talk about example of lead. On the beginning of the exploitation of lead in the human history, humans or societies extracted 1 ton per year of lead from the earth crust. Okay. Today, societies worldwide, so the civilization, extract the 3 million tons of lead per year. So the difference is 3 million times more of lead today than in comparing to prehistorical time. And exploiting and using a resource is a profitable activity. As a consequence, we have very good statistical data about input of the lead into our anthroposphere. But if we talk about and this is very known, we have worldwide statistics, some of them are good, some of them are not so good, some of them are even better. But if we talk about the outputs, then we have the lack of good informations, because to deal with the outputs from the anthropogenic activities which contains lead, that means that we are dealing with the waste which contains a hazardous substances, which means a huge amount of money is needed to manage this kind of waste. And the big question is, actually, from the material and the substance point of view, where is this lead? Do we know this? First, do we know where is this lead? Second, who is going to manage this lead? And the third one is how can we be sure that we collected, reused, and recycled all the lead in circular economy? It is not only the lead what is the problem. The other substances are problem as well. I mean, the substances are not the problem. They are only the consequence of the very complex products. Complex products are the consequence of our complex need as a civilization. So if we look from this historical perspective, from the 18th century until 21st century, we developed very complex products which contains more and more materials and more parts. They are more sophisticated, and all this complexity and sophistication requires a lot of different substances inside. All these products, they are new, yes, they are very modern, they are very so fancy, but like every product today, they have specific usage lifetime. So they have a operational lifetime. So sooner or later, maybe from the moment of putting into the market, and after 25, maybe 30 or 35 years, let's say like this, these products will end up in the waste management system. That means that all of those substances which are used to produce these devices will be inherited by the waste management. That means that waste management at the very end will need to deal with these substances. So that means that from the practical point of view, means that the waste management designed for the year of 1900 will not be appropriate for the materials in 2000, because there are much more of them. And the products are complex. They are more and more complex. No? Here we see the Mercedes-Benz in 1886 and 2019. So the second one is definitely much more complex. It contains much more materials, much more parts. It's very sophisticated, very modern, very comfortable, very fast, very expensive. It requires much more mining to be produced. Yeah. So much more energy is used. We made much more pollution during producing definitely. And recycling this Mercedes is much more difficult and much more complex than the Mercedes from 1886. And this is only one example. So, if we want circular economy, real circular economy, we need to think also about the input side in the economy, not only about the output side. Because, dealing only with the outputs from the economy and investing all the energy, technology, money into the outputs will never solve the problem of the wastes, of the pollution, and of recyclability. If we continue to have the same amount and structure of the input and to increase the input and complexity all the time, everywhere, dealing with the outputs will not help us in designing the circular economy. circular economy in our societies. And this is, with circular economy, this is what we would like to achieve, actually. Yes, we call today's economy linear economy. That means that we just extract materials, we produce, we distribute them, we consume them, and at the end of the life cycle they become waste. Yeah, and then this is simple. If you want a circular economy, that means that at least mainstream of the circular economy is easy, simple. We just reuse our waste. But is this possible without making changes in the input phase? If we look at the recovery potential of the materials which are used today, we can also see the very, how to say, at least, okay, not big potential in the recyclables materials. Because if you look only at from the functional point of view, we have, like, from the total amount which is extracted from the environment, only 20% of materials which are or can be functionally recycled. That means that only the 25% or 20% of the materials can satisfy the technical standards to be reused in original products. So still 80 or 75% of the waste cannot be reused. The actual recycling rate for plastic is EU is interesting. So particularly in my country, in Serbia, when people and the public and are talking about, even engineering and academic community, when they are talking about recycling level, they are talking about the waste or the recyclables which are collected and directed to the recycling facility. But indeed, and this is typically what is reported, but indeed, recycled waste is the waste which is used as a secondary, directly used as a secondary, I mean not directly, but used for a secondary raw material, used as, so the amount which is embedded or used directly for the product production. And if you look at this example from 2020, so the difference between reported and actual recycling rate is huge. So the actual recycling rate within EU in 2020 was 8 to 10%. Although some cities are reporting like that they are collecting recyclables up to 90%, etc. If you look at the substances, again, it's important to notice that the waste management is a carrier, a very important carrier of a couple of very hazardous substances on a national level. Here we can see the example of cadmium and mercury. if we look at the total national flow of these substances, so cadmium and mercury, we can see that between 40 and 50% of the amount of these substances on the total state level is referring to the waste flows. That means the 40 to 50% of the total amount of these substances will end up in waste management. That means that if we want to reduce the pollution from the cadmium and mercury on a state level, we must deal with the waste management. So we must advise, we must have very sophisticated waste management system. So if we now interfere the circular economy into this, we have two options: either to reuse the cadmium and mercury again and bring it back to the consumption cycle, which is something that we don't want, or we are going to integrate into the circular economy the concepts which are also safely dealing and managing these hazardous substances. That means that they need to be extracted from the waste and extracted from the material cycles. That means that we don't want to use them in circular economy. Substances are very important also for the usage of bottom ash and sewage sludge. For example, on this slide, we can see the regulatory conditions for using waste as a construction aggregate and fertilizer in 3 different countries. So Sweden, Denmark, and Germany. In all these countries, we have standards, quality standards for the reusing these type of wastes as a secondary products or in secondary products, standards defined by the content of different substances, by their presence in these materials, and their concentration. This is why the substances are very important. That means that we cannot just reuse anything what is waste in a circular economy, because if we do that, we are going to have very harmful materials, infrastructure all around us. Then the main goal of circular economy, which is to protect the human and the environment, will not be valid anymore, or circular economy will not be valid. This is why we need, in a decision making, in a development of the regulation, the policy, development, the system, the processes, we always need to tackle the substance issue. Okay, the amount of and the concentration of hazardous substances. And with this, we are coming to the demystification of modern circular economy goals, because it is not the same, goal and the mean. It's in my country is often very there is a big, mix between these two phrases, goal and mean. So at the moment I'm in Vienna and preparing myself for tomorrow's lectures for students in TU Vienna about the goals of waste management. So my goal was to come to Vienna, and I'm here, and I could come in Vienna either by train, either by plane, or by car. So this is the mean. So in that sense, the goals of circular economy are not to are only to recycle, to reuse. The main goal is to protect the mankind and environment, to protect the human health. So this should be the main goal of circular economy. This is why circular economy is developed and implemented as a concept. And it is the same with waste management. So the goal of waste management is not to recycle. The goal of waste management is to protect the human health and the environment. So this is the main goal of waste management. This is why societies started to manage the waste, to deal with waste, because people were getting sick. There were different kind of diseases everywhere, and then clever people figure out that something is not working well, that they need to do something with their waste. And this is how the organized waste collection system and treatment started. And the same with the circular economy. If we recycle 100% of materials and in the same time we make a damage to our health and the environment, then we didn't achieve anything better for the society by applying the circular economy principles. The same, the second goal is the conservation of resources. So the less resource we use, the lower impact we have on the environment, on the soil, water, predominantly on the soil and water. And the third goal of circular economy and waste management is aftercare-free waste management. What does this mean, aftercare-free? First, or under A, the landfills without aftercare. That means that we do not want carbon in the landfills, organic carbon. Again, substances are important, because the more carbon we have in the landfill, the more reactions and the more active the landfill it is. The more active landfill is, we have a higher potential for the emissions, for the long-term emissions, for the leachate and for the off-gas. That means that from pragmatical point of view, that means that all materials which are landfilled should contain the minimum amount of carbon. And this is the reason why we have the restriction of direct landfilling of bio-waste. This is the main reason. So we need to landfill as much as we can the stone-like quality materials. Clean cycled, the second goal under B would be the clean cycle of recycled materials. What does this mean? This means that during the process of refabrication of waste to become a resource, we need to extract the hazardous materials, hazardous substances. We do not want the hazardous substances inside the recycled materials. These substances need to be extracted and safely disposed in places where they are not going to have the even potential negative impact to the environment, long-term impact to the environment. So that means that whatever we recycle again, it should not contain the hazardous substances. And the hazardous substances itself need to be extracted and safely deposited in the circular economy. That means that circular economy concepts need to take care about the hazardous substances, not only about the resources, which is today the main stream in circular economy, but also about the hazardous substances. Because if the waste management only deal with the resources from waste and ignore the hazardous substances, then we are going to have a still big negative impact of the environment, and as a consequence, the huge negative impact we are going to pollute the environment, and at the end, negative impact on human health. So to summarize, available technology treatments, EU hierarchy, circular economy goals. These are not the goals of waste management or the circular economy. These are the means to reach the goal. So the circular economy should be the mean to reach the waste management goal. And the waste management goals are listed on this slide. And of course, we cannot forget the economic boundaries and the affordability of waste management. So we must be aware that all these techniques and technologies in waste management are very expensive. And as long as somebody needs to pay for it, and it is not perpetuum mobile. So as long as the society have the sufficient amount of money to pay for this, or sufficient amount of money is directed there by the government, then these sophisticated waste management systems will work. Practical implications, I think we more or less discussed them on the previous slide. So clean materials suitable for recycling and recovery, stable materials for landfilling, and of course the emissions in compliance with environmental standards. So that means that they are in line with the natural balance and the geogenic concentration and loads. So we don't want to emit the pollution in the atmosphere, in the air, in the water, and in the soil. And if you look at the waste management from the system perspective, from the system perspective, and make up, the simplification of the anthroposphere, and understand the flows from the environment to the anthroposphere, we can make the following conclusion. First one is that whatever is exploited from the earth crust, sooner or later will ends up in waste management systems. So all materials, or all the materials, all the substances, etc., it will end up in waste management systems. So the waste management system will need to take care about these materials, non-hazardous and hazardous as well, so both. Since the law of conservation of matter says that materials cannot be destroyed, can be only transformed from one form to another, that means that whatever enters the waste management will exit the waste management system. Okay? It will exit either into the air, water, soil, or it will stay in the landfill stock, or it will be directed to appropriate sink. Appropriate sink means that a place where hazardous substances will not pose any damage to the environment and humans. So only when waste management is capable to do this, we can consider it as a sustainable waste management system. And this is the real goal of waste management, to direct the substances in appropriate sinks, not to produce resources. Because by doing this, it will save and keep the human health and the environment on a high level. From this perspective, the waste management has two roles. First one is that waste management is a cleaner of the anthroposphere. So whatever we produce as an output, it will be collected and treated by the waste management system. So it's a cleaner of the anthroposphere of our society. You can imagine the city without waste management. You know, it would not look so nice and comfortable and interesting, believe me. So it's very important service actually in our everyday life. Although we don't think about this in that way, that it's always something secondary, but indeed from the hygienic and the health perspective and the quality of life perspective, if our settlements wouldn't have the waste management system, you imagine how will this look like. So it's not a question of recycling or energy reuse, etc., etc. It's a matter of hygiene of our settlements. So it's very important aspect of our lives today, of our life and our way of living, material way of living today. And the second very important aspect is that waste management is a filter between the anthroposphere and the environment. So that means that whatever we exploit from the environment, whatever we use in the anthroposphere in terms of the material, sooner or later will be directed back to the environment through the waste management system. So materials that we extracted from the environment will again be returned to the environment through waste management system. The way and the structure of the pathways of returning these substances to the environment define the quality of waste management. So it is not recycling rate, it is not waste to energy rate, it is not waste prevention rate. It's the level of the level of appropriate and care and appropriate direction of different substances, both useful and non-useful, back into the environmental medias. And this is how the quality of waste management is defined, and this is how must be defined in the future in our particularly in the transition and developing countries. So the goals of waste management are the most important. Waste as resource is a secondary category. So waste is not only a resource. Waste, there are a lot of wastes which cannot be used as a resource, and we need to realize that all these technologies and concept of reuse, waste to resource, are only part of the overall quality of waste management, and they are the means to reach the goals, the real goals of waste management. Yes, I think we more or less discussed the most important points of this presentation, and I just want to highlight that in a modern circular economy needs to strive towards goals of waste management. The circular economy is a tool for waste management, and circular economy must be clean in order to have a positive impact to our anthroposphere and to our economy. And this is the only way how the circular economy should and must be reflected reflected towards waste management, and all the relationships between the circular economy and waste management must be built upon this. Otherwise, having circular economy focusing only on the resource from waste, ignoring the hazardous substances in waste, will only accumulate long-term problems, which is something that nobody wants. Thank you very much. I hope that you will enjoy this presentation. You have the email. Whoever is have any question or would like to discuss, meet, and brainstorm about this and connected topics. Yes, I will be very glad to do this. Thank you once again, and all the best from Vienna. Bye bye.